Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Alf Molinas, who's the CEO of FoodRazor. Hi, Alf. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Simon.
Good. So you are Spanish but live in Singapore. Is that correct?
Correct.
So two very different cultures collide there. So tell us a bit about yourself, Alf. How you kind of got from Spain to Singapore and got involved with FoodRazor.
Sure. So I'm originally from Spain, but throughout my life I've been jumping around. I've lived in the UK, I've lived in the US, in Japan, and Hong Kong. And after finishing my MBA at INSEAD in Singapore, I joined this startup. Original founder was stepping down, and that was a great opportunity for me to take the reins of a very promising startup and take it to the next stage of growth.
And tell us more about what FoodRazor does, though. So what things do you set out to help? How do you support businesses in kind of the food industry?
So FoodRazor helps restaurants, specifically SMEs, so smaller restaurants with, say, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 outlets, with their back of house operational efficiencies. Specifically, we're obsessed with the invoices between vendors and the restaurants. So typically the story that we see, the image that we see is the restaurant manager, the accountant, the chef. At the end of the day, they just have this massive stack of paper invoices from all their different suppliers. And that data needs to go to their accounting software. So how are they putting this data up there? They're doing it manually. They're putting it on some Excel spreadsheet, taking a lot of time, likely to make mistakes, putting it off because it's not really something that chefs particularly want to be doing, or restaurant managers. It's a pain, right? And so what we do is we make that a lot easier. So just with the snap of a picture, forwarding any digital invoices or any electronic invoices that you have, uploading a PDF, it comes up onto our platform, very simple, and we scan those invoices on an item per item basis, push that straight to the accounting software, and provide a series of reports and different types of data analytics on our platform. And so what this does is, of course, it frees up a lot of time for the whoever is normally handling the invoices. So that's time that can be spent doing something else of value, thinking about revenue generating opportunities, thinking about how to engage with customers in different ways, or even if you're the accountant, using your accountant skills in a more meaningful way.
And it must help then in terms of, like you say, one, there's an environmental thing, I suppose, of it becomes more digitized as people move away from paper or start to scan, but it must help you then visualize some of those things because you're putting that data into the platform. So are there various visualizations that people can see around spend and type of product and all those types of things, or type of supplier?
Exactly. So because we digitize to such a detailed level, we go down to the item level, we're able to show exactly as you say, Simon. So reports on how much you're spending per product, per category of products, per supplier, per outlet. And so you have, this is one of the biggest benefits of FoodRazor, is that you gain a lot more transparency and insight into your own company, into your own spending.
And that there must be some surprises in there for some of the organisations you work with then, of how much they do spend on particular items or particular products. Are there any kind of stories that you can share where, by bringing all that data together in a platform, people have been surprised or have done something differently with it?
So there's two stories there. So one is that, yes, this data is quite valuable in and of itself, right? So if you're looking at that spending and thinking, wow, I sure am spending a lot of money on this one particular ingredient, you actually can go into try and understand what your spending patterns are, right? Is there any opportunity to increase those orders so that you're getting more economies of scale, so that your unit price is cheaper? Or is there, if you really are spending on one particular product more than you realize, then you might be tempted to look for a different supplier who might provide that at kind of a much more affordable price. But data in and of itself is, I personally believe it's only so valuable to the users, right? To the restaurant managers, to the chefs. Why? Because there's a lot of it. And so, these product spending reports, for instance, they can be quite extensive unless you're looking for something specific. Restaurants have hundreds, have thousands of products even, right? So all that data is not necessarily going to be helpful because it's just too much of it. And if you're not willing to dedicate the time, then you're not making use of it. So what we're trying to do is, not just provide the data, but provide the insights as well. So one particular insight that I'm thinking about is the price alert. And this is very simple. The price alert just sends you a notification whenever the price of one ingredient of like one particular product increases relative to the previous invoice, right? And so, and you can set the sensitivity of that. Like you can be 1% increase or even 20% increase, right? So for example, for steak, which is going to be relatively more expensive, you might want to be more sensitive to it and so on. But then that alert is coming to you, so you don't have to look, you don't have to sift through the thousands of products that you have. You can just focus on the ones that require, a little bit more of your attention. And some of these price alerts come about for basically two reasons. One, it's not that anyone is trying to screw anyone over. It could be just a clerical error, right? These invoices are often generated manually by the supplier, so maybe the decimal point is behind the wrong zero. And sometimes the suppliers, I think they generally try to alert whenever there's a price increase, but sometimes they forget or they prioritize maybe larger players over smaller ones, and yeah, they never get to hear about it. So it's a chance for them for this price alert. It alerts you and it allows you to take immediate action. So this is an example of how an insight, rather than just the data itself, can help the restaurants.
No, I like that. And it must set you up then for some really creative future opportunities. So you've got this nice, let's call it foundation level. We're digitizing things. We're building a data set across all your clients, but for those clients individually, and like you say, looking at things like price sensitivity. But what things are in your mind around where this then leads next? We're seeing, lots of things, certainly in the UK at the moment, around sustainability, reducing carbon footprint, doing something different with waste. Are all those kind of things on your mind about where you could take it?
Absolutely. So, because we capture all of the cost data, we're basically calculating all the ingredients that are coming in, right? And so as soon as we start connecting that to the sales data, which is the data that is in the POS, the point of sales system, we can start actually automating certain things like inventory management, right? So we know what is coming in and we know what is going out. And this is actually, I have to say, this isn't the most obvious thing to do, because what comes in is in terms of ingredients. And then what comes out is in terms of like dishes and food. And so you have to be able to understand how you connect the ingredients to the food. And that's obviously through the recipes, right? But you need to kind of connect all those things together. But once you have that, you can do things like calculate your expected inventory, right? So you're able to calculate in an automated way how much you should have in the pantry. And that is important for two reasons. Well, for many reasons. One of the reasons is that usually this takes a lot of time. So again, massive operational efficiencies. But another reason to your question is by automatically calculating what should be there, when people do the stock take, it's a lot easier and faster for them to calculate how much is being wasted by, just subtracting how much should be there from how much is actually there. And so that remainder is going to be how much was wasted, pilfered. There's different reasons for that. And so that allows you, that's kind of the next thing that we might be able to help with in terms of that sustainability angle, which again is going to make business sense for those restaurants, right? I mean, that is all that wastage is cost that is being added on.
And because you're understanding or have a history of items ordered at that granular level, again, potentially you could maybe start to do some predictive stuff. So based on your order history, these are the predicted number of cucumbers, lettuces we think you should order. Is that some of the stuff you're starting to think about?
Yeah, I mean, of course, again, probably what would make more sense is to be connecting that with the POS data, the POS data, so that the purchasing can be a bit more demand driven. So, of course, our own our own cost data, or the one that we have from our customers, is going to be a proxy for how much is actually being demanded, right? And it can be quite cyclical. But marrying our data with the POS data, I think is going to be really, really powerful for things just like that. So how much should they be ordering and how much should they be producing? Because that optimal order quantity and optimal production quantity require the demand information and the supply information.
So you could get into almost production planning as well then.
Absolutely, absolutely, and because by understanding even just how much you're making, how much margin you're making on one particular ingredient over other, you might want to change a little bit of how you prioritize production. You might be wanting to make more of this and less of that. And also, again, how can you this will also help you minimize that waste, right? So that you're not overproducing a certain number of food products that eventually just remain unsold and are actually eating into your margins.
That makes sense. And what kind of model do you work on from a subscription model? Is it an on-premise? Is it all based in the cloud? How does all that kind of stuff work?
So we're totally cloud-based. Yep. We have a web application, meaning you can access it from any device, your computer, your phone, your tablet, without having to download any kind of application or install anything. So, and we try and make it very easy to use, right? Chefs are not chefs because they want to be tech wizards and have to spend too much time in different applications. So we just say, look, upload the invoice. We'll take care of the rest. Just sit back and watch all that magic happen. We'll even alert you so you don't have to come back to FoodRazor if you don't want to. We'll just send those alerts straight to you. We operate on a monthly subscription model. We try and make it as fair to the restaurants as we can and as flexible for the restaurants as we can. And I think that's the right thing to do, especially at a time like this. I'll give you an example. Here in Singapore, we've had on and off lockdowns since last year, and during that time, some of the restaurants have paused the subscription because restaurants were closed. And they're like, well, we have no invoices, Alf. Like we don't need to use the service. So okay, very well. You pause the service, and then sure enough, once the restaurants open again, they come back on their own. And they reactivate that subscription. So it helps it helps their business as well.
Yeah, and sounds like a fair approach for everybody. And you service restaurants all over the world as well, don't you? So it's not just Singapore and Australia, New Zealand. You've got clients all over the world.
That's right. I think since we last spoke, we've opened up in at least one more market. We are now in 11 markets. So yeah, Australia, New Zealand, of course, Singapore, Ireland, the UK, US, Canada. We even have some bakeries in Iceland who are using us. That's quite interesting.
Amazing. And if people are interested and maybe want to look at the product, clearly we'll put some links to the website in the show notes, but is the best thing for them to get in touch with you? How does that kind of look, feel, try and process work?
Absolutely. Please do give us a try. There's definitely a free trial that people can experiment and play with. Go on to foodrazor.com. You'll see the button there, and you can start uploading invoices. You have a few invoice credits so you can see how accurate we are, and also how you can interact with our amazing team, which I think is important. The product is great, but of course, I think a lot of F&B businesses will have some questions about, what are the kind of changes that they'll have to make. If something goes wrong, is there someone there to help me? And of course, the answer to that last question is yes, we're here to help. And we're usually on a first name basis with with our customers. They know who we are, we know who they are, and we really want to help them stay in business and become more and more profitable.
And tell us a bit about the team. How big is the team now, and what kind of roles have you got there?
We're pretty lean. We've got 2 people working, I guess, more for the business would want to know. We've got Julian and Lynn. They're amazing. They're our customer success team, and they're always supporting all of our customers. Otherwise, we're a pretty small team. We've got one consultant, someone in marketing, and then two tech teams. Two tech engineers. That's my tech team. We operate mainly out of Singapore, although we do have some of our staff kind of scattered around the world. And then finally, myself as the CEO and leader of the pack.
Amazing. Good stuff. So, I mean, the story is really clear for me in terms of some of the stuff you're doing, redirecting that manpower resource into areas that kind of can drive more sales or make more dishes. Really like the kind of price fluctuation, check-ins and notifications, because maybe those go under the radar a lot of the time, just because, as you say, people are busy and there's lots of paper going around. And some of those things you're thinking about for the future, again, wrapping it all around to more demand planning, looking at that waste sustainability angle, I think it gives it a really rounded feel. So for me, I've got one more question for you. I've got 2 actually. So of all the places you've lived, where's the one you felt most at home? Because it struck me you've kind of lived pretty much all the way around the world.
I have to say, as much as I love Singapore, I think my heart belongs to Tokyo. I think it is a fantastic place. Japan is an awesome place to be, and there's actually a lot. It's really a place where you can be yourself. So no matter who you are, or what kind of what you're into in terms of your hobbies and your interests, there is a community for you. Whether it's yo-yo, whether it's triathlon, which is something that I'm into, or books or trains, whatever. There's a community that is ready to welcome you and make you feel like part of a collective. I think that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, somewhere. It's funny you said that, because it was actually on the telly last night. They always have the shot of the square, don't they? And everybody kind of walking across through the traffic. And every time I see it, it's on my list of places to visit. I think it's getting closer and closer to the top. So yeah, good to hear that. Yeah, my list sounds like it's in a good place of places to visit. And then final one from me. You've clearly worked in lots of businesses, lots of places around the world. What's the best bit of business advice you've ever been given?
Oh goodness, the best bit of business advice. I think it's not the sexiest piece of advice, but I have to say one thing that I've learned working in startups is that cash is king. And this applies definitely to my startup, but also to any startup and any company. Managers and leaders will be concerned about cash for reasons that they have to make salary payments. They have to make sure that the business is sustainable, and I think that is a very important consideration when you are talking to other businesses. When you're negotiating or when you're trying to set up a partnership, that is going to be something that they'll always be thinking about. It's a very real consideration, no matter if you're a very small team like us of 6 or a larger multinational of 60,000. I would say remember that cash is king, and that really, really matters.
Good. We've not had that one before, so it's another one to add to the set of best business advice. I like that one. It's good. Good, very good. Well, listen, Alf, it's been great to chat and get to know you in the conversations we've had prior to the podcast and setup, and wish you all the success in the future. I say we'll put a link to the website and your LinkedIn profile in the show notes so people can easily find you. Thanks for coming on.
Excellent. Thank you, Simon.